Tom Mitchell. Tom, you're not going to remember this. But I can still remember my first encounter with you. You were much too cool in those days. It was my first ever evening in Hong Kong. And there I was, a callow editor out from London, bristling with brilliant ideas and enthusiasm. And we ended up in the Hong Kong Correspondence Club. Is that what it's called? Foreign Correspondence Club. And there were all sorts of people, many of whom are familiar to you. There was curtly, quiet, gentle Kevin Brown. There was bubbly, sparkling Mary Watkins. And all those pesky correspondents complaining about what I'd done, the atrocities I'd committed to their coffee and so on. And there in a corner, this is true, was a laconic figure, coolly appraising the scene. Drunk. Smoke rising from a cheroot. Well, I'm not sure if that's true, but but the laconic and cool bit definitely is accurate. And if I was Claire Barrett, and I often wish I would probably hear merrily come up with a whole volley of George Clooney-ish adjectives, but strong as my feelings are for you, Tom, for it was he in the corner. That's probably going a little bit far if this isn't to make it into private eye, so we'll keep that there. Anyway, I didn't share a word with Tom that night. I said he was the cool guy. Although I think he drank quite a lot. But what I did do the next day was to do a little bit of research. Sean will verify this. So I rang Sean early the next morning, because he was doing what all great deputies do, all the work while the boss swans around the globe. Thank you, Tom. And I described this Hemingway's... Hang on. Suzanne, did you put this in? Hemingway's? That's bullshit. but I described this figure. And Sean laughed down the phone as he was getting ready for conference and doing all that other mad stuff that we do. And he said, "Ah, that's Tom. He's one of the greats." Well, the next time Tom featured in my life was a year or so later when Sean was looking for a deputy. And all sorts of people said, "Oh, you'll never get Tom over to London. You'll never get him here." And I opined wisely with all the insight of one who never exchanged a word with you, but I've observed you in that corner. I said, "I agree entirely. From what I saw of him in Hong Kong, we'll never get him over to London at all." Well, Tom, I think we'll all agree here how lucky we are that I was completely wrong. We did get it. So I sat down this morning before conference in that brief but blessed time that some of you are familiar with before the engine really gets going and sort of mayhem starts. And I started scribbling, and scribbling the following words. "Dear Tom, some things have to be written." And then I briefly, here's the proof, I briefly suspended the steely-eyed ways of a news editor, and I scribbled down some of the many reasons that I and all of you here and many more have really enjoyed working with you. And the first two drafts were, I'm afraid, a little bit purple. So I tore them up, actually. If anyone was in at that time. No, I wasn't writing earnest memos on the future of Fed policy. I was actually writing paeans of praise. And it was when I got embarked on the third, not only did I realise that this had to do, because it's going to be a conference soon, but it actually hadn't really been that purple before, because I think I'd nailed it. So here's the thing, as my favourite American journalist friends like to say. Tom, the thing is, you get it. You get the point of journalism, and you get the fun of journalism. And we shouldn't forget either of those things. You know, we are here to expose hypocrisy, find out inconvenient truths, and all that sort of stuff. But we're also here because we love it. And when we stop loving it and fret about why we're not mentioned in the latest update or whatever, then we should just frankly go off and do something else. And you get it, and you also get the insanity of journalism. Because it is insane. It was insane when we were just a newspaper trying to deliver the daily miracle of producing a paper. It's even more insane now because we're kind of producing a sort of 24-hour round-the-clock newspaper, as it were, as well as the old-fashioned print thing. What else, Tom? You see through the bullshit is really important. And boy, there have been some really memorable conversations on the desk in the last year. I'm afraid all of them are going to have to stay in here, and possibly in there and in here, and they'll be familiar to one or two of you because they do come at the expense of one or two of our beloved colleagues. But also, you know exactly when someone has something that needs a bit of encouragement to work as a story, or just when someone needs some encouragement. And that too is a kind of crucially important bit of what we do. So Now, this afternoon I was sounding off about excessive speeches, so I think I better stop pretty soon. And also, I should just say that there's someone here who probably doesn't feel quite as I do about this, because who was it that put 7 pence in the collection? We care about you all deeply. So I don't need to get, anyway.
I can think of a few.
Anyway, Sean, in conclusion, to be clear, Tom, Sean was right. You're one of the greats. You'll be a brilliant correspondent in Beijing. I have put money in a little sweepstake that it will be at least a month before you're talking down a splash or say, oh, no, that's a kind of brief or a global insight. But unfortunately, I know that even if you fall into those traps, you will deliver the riposte with your sort of trademark laconic charm, and Suzanne and I will start recalling happy days with you at our side, and we'll say, oh, all right. So thank you from us all, and good luck, but you're not going to need it. I would really like Now, Tom's going to reply in Mandarin, because he assured me when he got this job that he speaks fluent Mandarin.
Well, I will try and be brief because I know everyone's suffering maybe from a bit of farewell speech fatigue. It is true that I didn't really want to come to London.
You didn't want to leave.
There was a reason my grandfather went to Boston, not to the UK. And however, Sean and John and Lionel can be pretty damn persuasive, and it wasn't too long after I arrived in London that I realized that, in fact, it had probably been one of the best decisions I ever made. And the reason for that was pretty simple, because when you're sitting in the center of the network that links all the foreign correspondents and also all the reporters who are sitting in OSB, it's always interesting, it's usually fun, and most importantly, it's a hell of a privilege. Because when Lionel and Martin, or Lionel and John, walk out early in the evening, and then the news editor goes,
even though
you realize you can do whatever the hell you want. And I was in that position where we were putting out the 125th anniversary, and that was a lot of fun, but I didn't dare do anything different from what Lionel had prescribed. I've also been very lucky to have reported over the past 3 years directly to 3 great bosses. First Sean, then John, and now Alec. They're all great team leaders who, most importantly, look after members of their team, and I really appreciate that. I will probably miss most of all the camaraderie of the news floor. I consider myself first and foremost to be a reporter, but I also like newsrooms, and I've worked in them for extended periods of time. I certainly would look forward to coming back and working in London again. And the thing I like about it is, and I'm talking really to the people in the newsroom as opposed to the reporters, whether you're news editing, or you're on production, or you're in the photo department, basically it's our job to make great saves all the time, incredible saves that nobody ever sees, right? But when sometimes that puck just dribbles between your legs and crosses the line, buzzer goes off, spotlights, red light, and the only thing that kind of keeps you sane in that kind of pressure cooker environment is colleagues with whom you can go out and have a beer and laugh about it. And that's what I've enjoyed the most working in the newsroom, is being able to decompress with like-minded colleagues, whether over a beer or whether just kind of laughing at it within the confines of the newsroom, because otherwise it just wouldn't be nearly as much fun. And just on that note, I don't think the person responsible for this great save is here. Fat fingers are part of the job, as we've seen this week. They just happen from time to time. So I think the hero in question was either Eamon or Simon Roberts. Now they're both going to take credit for it. Maybe it was even somebody else. But George Parker was filing from the Tory conference, and we had George Osborne's speech there, I think it was in Manchester, on the front page. It was the off-lead with picture, and George didn't have access to Methode, so he emailed me the copy. And we were tight on deadline. I rushed it through. I filled in the byline, and about 10 minutes before everything was set to release, said production person came over and said, Is this really by George Osborne in Manchester?
Jeffrey!
Had that gone through, we would not be here talking about it. So to my comrades on the news floor, I really appreciate it.
Cheers!
I should also say that I'm very fearful of the leaving page we are about to get because I am far too frank.
There you go. It's not that bad.
Not bad, I guess.
Pasta.